Patrick McManamon. And Patrick is one of these guys that you assume is from Colorado. He's been in the industry forever, in raised quotation marks. But he's from Ohio, and he's still in Ohio, and he's never lived in Colorado. But he's done a ton of work in the industry from an insurance perspective, and he shares what he's learned. Okay, so we are here in New York. NCIA event is happening kind of down the street. And so Patrick McManamon, the Patrick McManamon from Cannasure, is here in studio. We've got the window open, so you might hear some ancillary noise. But Patrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, so it's morning time. You're a Colorado guy, so it's still about, well, it's 8 a.m.
I'm a Cleveland guy.
Oh, right. So, you know, we put that stamp of Colorado on you because you're, you know, originally.
Yes, everyone thinks I'm from Denver.
From the industry, but you're based out of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
You got 614 as proof, right? Or no?
It's 4440. 614 is Columbus.
Columbus, excuse me.
Yeah.
So you're 440.
Mm-hmm. Used to be 216, and then it got a little bigger, so we got 440.
Okay, 216. There you have it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then you're familiar with what's happening with the Browns, and you know Johnny Manziel, and you remember the Notre Dame quarterback as well.
Oh, Brady Quinn. Yes,
yeah,
I do. He
go.
actually lived a couple streets away from me when he was playing for the Browns. I do. Yeah, when he was trying to play for the Browns.
Sure. And then if we're going to talk about Browns quarterbacks, just to make sure we understand your age, you do or don't remember Bernie Kosar?
I do. I have a good story. Bernie Kosar. I'm from Rocky River. Still live there. When Bernie was playing for the Browns, he lived in Rocky River, and he would come to our grade school for mass every single morning at 7 a.m.
Wow.
And so as little kids, we were fighting to be the altar boys, because Bernie would be at the 7:15 a.m. mass every single day.
Sure.
He bought air conditioning for my school. With the Browns played the Broncos in one of the many AFC championship games, he came to school the Friday before and had a rally for all the students in our school. So yeah, and I was a season ticket holder with the Browns for my family. So Bernie still is. Bernie could run for, mayor of Cleveland still and win, no matter how drunk he might be or not be. So,
sure.
For sure.
Well, that was a pretty decent team that he was.
Yeah, those are really good teams. Yeah, they were really good. Yeah, they had Brian Brennan, and a lot of those guys still live in Cleveland, if you can actually believe that, because they're treated like gods around there.
Sure.
So, there's a bunch of them that still live around town and work there.
Yeah. We're going to not talk about sports anymore, but
no.
Did I hear there's some sort of a religious background there? Was there a...
I went to Catholic schools from actually my entire grade school, high school, and college. Okay. College was just happened to be, I never really picked it, but
got it. What college did you go to?
University of Dayton.
Okay. And that is a Catholic school?
It is a Catholic school,
all right.
Yes,
and that just happened to be...
It did.
But is it the parents that put you through the Catholic school? Was it how did that all come to be?
Well, I'm the only one in my family that went all the way through. My brother got kicked out of the grade school we were at, and so he went to the public school across the way. And then my sister went through that. I mean, I guess so, yeah. It just happened to be for high school. Just the all-boys high school was the place to go. That's where I wanted to go.
So it was less religious and just more good education? Or?
I think it is good education.
Okay.
I don't think it's any... I don't go to church very often. I don't think my parents made me go to church very often, that's for sure. So it's nothing like that.
So they enjoyed the structure of it, and
they did. Yeah. And it was close and it was easy. So I think they went to Catholic schools when they were little kids, and I think they just followed their parents' footsteps.
Okay, and I'll hit you with a big one early. Mm-hmm. If you're not necessarily a religious guy that goes to church every Sunday, what, if any, kind of lesson did you take from Catholic school all the way through?
I would just tell you working hard, because they don't give you any passes.
Right.
That's for sure. Classes are usually smaller, so there's not much getting by, especially in the Catholic grade school. You were not getting anything through. And in the high school, the priest and the brothers, the Jesuit priest, they didn't put up with anything either. So you just, you had to work hard. There was no shortcut, that was for sure.
Right. And so there's more than a few folks in the industry that were brought up with that Jesuit tradition.
Yeah.
Trip Keeper be one of them.
Yeah, he went to Gonzaga. That's exactly right. Yeah, we played Gonzaga in lacrosse. So yeah, no, he wasn't there, but yes, I do know that.
And so am I picking up? Did you play lacrosse? Were you?
I did. Yeah, I actually had a Fairfield. I was going to go to Fairfield University. I got offered a scholarship, but I went up there and I just wasn't going to fit in that place. Coming from Cleveland, Ohio, and going to Fairfield was not for me.
Where's Fairfield?
Up in Connecticut.
Okay.
So that's another Catholic school. So I said no and just went to Dayton and went and went to be a college student, not a lacrosse player. That's for sure.
Oh, so you did not take this? You could have been a lacrosse player and opted out simply because of the region.
Yeah, it it wasn't the region. It was just the school. I learned really early that my dad told me. He said, "You can't pick a school based on playing lacrosse because what happens the first day of practice? You go and you hurt yourself. You're done.
Yeah,
you're not going to have your scholarship, which the scholarship was minor anyways. But you're not going to have your scholarship, and you're going to be here with anybody you know. So what are you going to do?" And I was like, "You're exactly right. I have no interest. Wasn't going to become a professional lacrosse player, that's for sure." So it was just time to move on from that. I still coach lacrosse, however. I am the head high school coach for my St. Ignatius. So
you are?
Yeah, have been for this will be my sixth or seventh season coming up here. I've been coaching for 14 years there.
Okay. And so if I asked for a key kind of lesson learned from Catholic school, what's a key lesson learned from the lacrosse field?
You can only be successful when you work as a team. It's the only
Interesting.
thing. The only way you're going to win is be a team. That's all I know.
That's all I know. That's all I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you could tell us a few other things. What position did you play?
I played defense.
Okay, so with the long stick.
Yeah, long stick, exactly right.
All
Yeah,
right.
play defense.
All right, and you never hit anybody with the stick?
No,
clean.
No, everything
right?
was clean as can be. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time.
All right, so that's what you were doing, and you went to school to be a regular student, and then what did you find? What did you start to major in? What
I thought it was
going to
be. I thought it was going to be an attorney.
Okay.
I'm very good at arguing, so I went to college with the idea that I would be an attorney. So I was a political science major.
Yeah.
And did some history minor. And after I got out of college, I went and I worked at the Cuyahoga County Courthouse.
Okay.
So I was a scheduler for the judges, so the common pleas judges. Basically, it's making $24,000 a year living in my parents' basement. It gives you time to go to law school is what it does.
Okay.
And I was there for about 6 months and realized I never wanted to be a lawyer any further.
Why not?
Just some of the slime balls are just unbelievable. Some of the attorneys. I mean, there's my business partner's an attorney. But there are some of the criminal defense attorneys. I literally felt like I'd have to go home and shower after. I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
And they were just trying to pull anything and everything over everyone all the time.
Huh.
I felt like they were worse than their freaking clients, half of them.
Wow.
And so and then I realized I didn't want to go back to school for another 3 years or something. I was done with school.
Yeah.
And so I quit there, and then I went to go work at McDonald Investments, which is owned by KeyBank, and I was in their portfolio department. I was an analyst in there. Worked there for about, I guess maybe 3 years or so.
And this is still in Ohio.
Still in Cleveland, downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then after 3 years, my father asked me to come work for him at the family business, and I never wanted to be in insurance, but I said. He offered me a lot more money than I was making, and I said, sure, it's probably time to start my life.
Why do you think he offered you a job for way more money than you were making? I mean, why would this man do this?
In insurance, you need a succession plan, and I was his succession plan. So
I see.
He took it over from his father in 1940. My grandfather started the business in 1946 after the war. My father came in. He's the oldest of 6 boys, and so he came in 1970.
Okay.
And started doing the property and casualty. My grandfather was life and health. And so I think it was just kind of, that's what he wanted. And, like I said, I was tired of going downtown to go to work, which in Cleveland is not like any other city. It's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, still a pain in the butt. Mm-hmm. And I can drive my office in 5 minutes from my house. And he was offering me more. And I just said, it's give it a try and see what happens.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
All right. So what year was that roughly?
It's probably 2003 or 4, somewhere in that range.
Okay. So
I graduated college in 2000, so right around that time.
It's been 10 plus years.
It has, yeah.
So before we jump into the cannabis thing, what kind of insurance were you doing before that?
So our family is a property and casualty firm, and we specialize really kind of in medical malpractice insurance for physicians.
Okay.
And dentists, and then large commercial accounts, manufacturers, businesses between probably $5 and call it $40 million in sales, or kind of the McManamon insurance wheelhouse, and then the large physician groups were the other side of it, and they do personal lines as well, which house and cars, but I never really got into that at all.
All right, so that's what we've got going on, and McManamon. This is what, an Irish name?
Of course.
Okay.
Patrick Casey McManamon, but I am half Italian.
Half Italian somehow.
My mother is 100% Italian. My father's 100% Irish.
Patrick Casey McManamon. And there's so many syllables there on the last name.
There are. Some people get very scared when they see my last name and they think too much. And then if you just look at it, and just say the letters,
Yeah.
you'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's it. Just to do it.
Just read,
sound it out.
Just say the letters and you'll be fine.
Just calm down, take a breath.
People always put an H. McManamon. I'm like, I don't see an H in there, but
Yeah.
if you say so, go ahead.
Whatever you need.
Yeah, right. McMahon. I'm like, no, but go ahead.
Was speaking of quarterbacks, not a bad Chicago quarterback right there. So you're doing the insurance thing. It's 2003, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
When does this whole cannabis thing happen? Because Ohio is not known for cannabis, Patrick, as you well know.
Well, Athens, Ohio is known for cannabis.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so Athens, Ohio is. But no, Cleveland is not a hotbed of marijuana, that's for sure. So what happened was our family business, like I said, where medical malpractice was our big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to see all of our physician practices were being purchased by the hospitals. Which is a very common thing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That started happening about 2007, 8, and 9, where we saw a very large amount of our clients. We were losing our customers left and right, and it wasn't because we were doing anything wrong. Their practices were being sold to the hospital,
right.
Therefore their insurance policies going away.
Right.
And the last one that I kind of was like, we got to figure something out here. Well, we had a account that had 62 physicians in it. Was $1.7 million, $1.8 million in premium, and they sold, and it was like, oh boy, what are we going to do now?
So that just goes poof.
It just
right
goes
there.
away.
Yeah,
it just goes away. So we got a little bit of a bump because you have to sell. You buy what's referred to as a tail, and so when they sold the tail, which was rather large, we got a good amount of money on that. But the writing obviously was clearly there that this malpractice is not going to be something that we can continue to kind of hang our hat on. And so I did some things with dentists. We started a dental program across the country where we went from we only had literally a dozen dentists in our book of business for malpractice insurance. With the internet and everything we were able to put together, I grew it to about 1,000 in about a year, and from all over the country. And a lot of them were dentists that have issues. Some have substance abuse issues. Some had claims or whatever it is, and so they're harder to place dentists.
Right.
And so the average premium in the dental world is really small. It's probably like $3,000 to $5,000 if you're just an average dentist. But when you have a substance abuse problem or you had claims in the past, your premium is usually 5 to 6 times that. And so those guys are constantly looking for stuff, and that's how we found them in that. And then one day, a guy I went to high school with called me up. It was end of 2009, and said he was opening a dispensary in downtown San Diego, and his nickname is Cheese, by the way.
Okay.
So that should tell you something. We went to college together as well, and told me he was opening a dispensary. And Brian has always been a little bit out there from a friend standpoint.
This is Cheese.
This is Cheese.
Okay.
So Brian's always been a little bit out there, and I said, well, what do you mean you're starting a dispensary? And he said, this is what we're doing. So I, of course, like anybody, got on the internet and searched everything I possibly could and was like, what is going on out here? I had no idea this is happening.
Right.
And I said, well, I'll be happy to help you. And said, but I need to come out and see what's going on. So I went out to San Diego, and I think I flew into Ontario Airport because it was too expensive to fly to San Diego from Cleveland, of course, and there's no direct flights. So I'm driving down to San Diego, and I'll never forget getting off in Pacific Beach is where he lived, and the first 3 buildings I saw were dispensaries.
Yep. And
I said, holy shit, this is no joke, is it? And just driving down his street right to where his place was, I mean, there were probably 15 dispensaries at the time. And so I went down to his. He had a great spot downtown, looked right into Petco Park. He learned a few things early from him.
That's just past the gas lamp district, right? Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you could walk out the front of his door and you look down the street and you were looking through the outfield at Petco Park.
Love it. Yeah.
But he had many issues from his location. Geographically, his location was awesome because we were right by the ballpark, so you'd think it would all work, the bars, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He only had 2 parking spots. And so that doesn't quite work very well for a high traffic business. So nonetheless, he didn't last very long. But for us, it was the beginning of a business for me. So from there, what we started to do is I just kind of started doing as much research as I possibly could. And actually, the first event I ever came to was in New York City.
Okay.
I believe it was October of 2010. I think the predecessor to MJ Business Daily or something had an event over in Times Square down in the Hilton or the Sheraton over there or something.
Right.
And I brought my attorney, my business partner at the time, and I'd been spending probably about 6 to 9 months at this point just researching, just looking. The only piece of business I placed was Brian's, and it was very small. But I saw the issues that everyone was dealing with, the stigma of what they were doing. And so I brought my business partner, Kevin, and Kevin and I also went to high school together at the Jesuits. It's like a fraternity.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, but I brought Kevin. I said, Kevin, hey, I want you to come with me to New York, and I want you to tell me if I'm crazy or if this is a real business.
Right.
And I said, the worst thing is you get 2 free days out of it in New York. That's the worst that can happen.
Right.
So he said, yeah, sounds great. So we went there, and I met. I had my plan to meet Troy, Dayton, and Steve were both speaking at the time, and there was a bunch of people in there. And
Arcview and Steve D'Angelo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it was at that time there was Steve was known, but Troy was there was nothing there obviously.
Yep.
And so there was very beginning for them, and so we went there, and I remember sitting downstairs in the first event that Kevin and I went to, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening. And I forget who the panel was. They were talking. Actually, I think J.B. Woods might have been on the panel that I spoke with the other day.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, whoever they're talking about everything. And I look at Kevin. I said, what do you think? And he goes, 100% this is a real business. He goes, look around the room. And you looked around the room, and most everybody was in a suit. There were a few people in your tie-dyes and everything else, but most everybody there was in a suit.
Yep.
Everyone was a lawyer. Everyone was an accountant, or everyone was a banker. And when I saw that, I said, "You're absolutely right, aren't you?" And he said that it's definitely 100% something. So I, at that point, then that evening, I made a point to go talk to Troy because I wanted, Steve is in charge of Harborside, and Harborside is the biggest, and I wanted to take a flyer and see if they would help, what they were doing. And I said, "This is what I do, and I'd love to have a conversation with you and help you." And they of course, had a huge problem with insurance.
Yeah.
And so. They were interested to talk to us, and we sat down and we had a few drinks for about an hour, and that kind of started it. We went then from there, came back to Cleveland, obviously. Told my father what I was doing. My father doesn't drink or smoke, so I was a little interested how he was going to react to that. But to his credit, is he's always been a great guy and very supportive of. He said, I agree with you. It's the end of prohibition. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think we have to go and explore it as best you possibly can. So then, we started traveling. Started traveling over to Harborside, and just seeing what was going on. And that was all of 2010 and pretty much 11.
Let me stop you there because I want to get your. You mentioned the stigma, and you mentioned your Catholic upbringing. I would imagine somewhat conservative.
Yeah.
There in Cleveland, and it sounds like your dad was immediately supportive.
He was.
I would imagine it was helpful that you had a business case.
Yeah, no, it did. No, I mean, my father's always been supportive of us, all of us, no matter what we do.
Okay.
But
even considering the fact that he, if he doesn't drink or smoke, why would this not be somewhat of a kinetic,
Yeah, he understands. I mean, insurance, I think, a lot of people are really successful in insurance, but for somebody like us to be successful, you have to find a niche. And, we can't be all things to all people. We're never going to be the Marshes of the world. I'm never going to go work for a place like that. It's just not in our DNA. And in order for a firm like ours to McManamon to survive, you got to think ahead.
Adapt.
You really do.
Yeah.
And my father's made a great life for our family, and it's not been easy. It's not been easy for him, but it relatively has. And so for us, I was just looking. There was what other opportunities were there going to be for us, and I had some other experiences with some other things I had seen in terms of alternative risk transfer for insurance.
With the dentists, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then nursing homes.
Okay.
Really, malpractice insurance for nursing homes was a big problem. And there's a friend of mine now, but at the time, a guy that my father and I just knew, a couple guys that had just started a risk retention group for a nursing home in a very hard market. They started in like 2005. And long story short, they were very successful in a very short period of time. And they were selling their company. And one of the companies that we did business with was I had been at their corporate office for a agent meeting, and they were talking about we are targeting nursing homes. And so if you know of any books of business that are for sale, or you have any opportunities, please let us know. And we happened to bump into the guy, and he said, well, we're in the process of selling right now. And we said, well, we might have a buyer for you, and it's a really, really big one.
Right.
And he said, wonderful. And so we became part of the due diligence for our carrier partner.
Right.
The deal never happened on the carrier side. for numerous reasons. But for me, it was the genesis of what I was doing, because it was the first time I had been exposed to how a captive, how a risk retention group, how that kind of whole formation happens, and was able to understand from the day they started to the day that they were right there selling, everything that they did, their business plan every single year, foreseeing everything, and just seeing how that whole process worked out was really, to me, I just kind of got that paperwork and I sat on it and I just read it over and over and over until I was able to understand it.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to understand it, I was just looking for an opportunity to apply it to. And cannabis happened to come along, relatively recently, close to that time.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have like a ton of time for this interview. But what I would love to do is understand from your perspective the issues that you have seen crop up and been solved, and that also issues that remain.
Yep.
So, that first big client, Steve at Harborside, take us from that story through to some current clients and their issues. I mean, I know that there's
right.
You don't want to share everything, but conceptually, where was the industry in 2009 as far as insurance? Let's start there.
There was pretty much no one was pretty much buying insurance.
Right.
As an afterthought. Everyone thought it was too expensive or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to get, which is true. I've seen people go from not buying insurance now to dealing with people that are spending six figures on their insurance and have not even batted an eye. So it's been we always talk, and you're well aware of it. I'm sure everybody that's been here and working in cannabis is like dog years. I mean,
Sure.
It literally changes a million times, and we've had many ups and downs with everybody else, and our success is based upon our customer success. So it's in our best interest to make sure that our customers are selling and doing the most proper things that they can. Well, the issues that we see, it's the standard things that I think that most people think of. Theft is a big issue. In the beginning, I will tell you, fire was an issue. We've been lucky that we didn't really have many of those issues. You'll see actually when people apply for insurance, they have to provide a letter from a electrical contractor. That's because of all the fires that would happen in 7, 8, 9, 10, because the electrical architecture was just jerry-rigged together and buildings were catching on fire because there's too much electricity running through that thing.
Right.
So that's why you see that there.
Literally not up to code.
Yeah, literally there was no code. There was no inspection being done. So burning down. Thefts were a little bit more prevalent because people were just sloppy. They were just sloppy. You just didn't have any real training or anything in place. Theft is still a problem now, but I think it's really minor. It's not. There's not, in my opinion, there are not going to be hundreds of thousands. A loss that's going to be a $500,000 theft loss. It's just
the security systems are.
There's too much security in place. You're going to have the smaller things. You're going to have those issues, but I don't foresee someone backing up an 18-wheeler to somebody's cultivation facility and loading plants in the back of the truck. I just don't see that being an issue. If it is, God bless them. I mean, you have at it, please. If you can get away with that, then I guess go ahead and get away with it. But I don't think that's going to happen. Now we're starting to see, of course, with all the companies getting much bigger, you have your employee problems, just kind of HR problems, dealing with all the employees and all the things that go along with being a growing business. And then, staying ahead of the regulations and bringing the regulations and understanding what they are. The packaging and labeling, of course, is a key. For us, product liability has been a huge boon to our business here when these states have made that a requirement. And, we've seen when I started that, probably 2010 and 11, if you wanted a product liability policy, you were probably going to pay almost $9 per thousand of sales. And today, you're paying more like $2 a thousand per sales, and that's only 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So, which is very common in most insurance and most industries for insurance. That kind of happens. So,
as it hits critical mass, basically.
Yeah, as the insurance companies start to understand it. But the funny thing is, the pricing's gotten better because people have gotten more understanding. But the product base has exploded, and people don't really know what's going on with it. There's no standard in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So Colorado with the 10 milligram dosage is, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know if 10 is or not. But at least it's a conversation. It's a starting point of what to have.
Indeed.
The other states do not have anything. So
yet
exactly, the packaging requirements and all those things. So for us, those are huge, and those are issues that we need to solve because it really will bring the rates down even more for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
If we have all these different patchwork things, the insurance companies are going to pick and choose the markets they want to go to. And so your good carriers aren't necessarily going to operate in every state because they don't have the proper regulation in that state. I mean, for Cannasure in particular, California should be an enormous part of our business because it's such a big state.
Yeah.
It isn't. It's less than 5% of our business.
Well, that's also based on the fact that there aren't, AB 266 from 3 weeks ago aside,
Right.
there are not really regulations
There are,
in place.
exactly.
Statewide.
So, right, the statewide, exactly. So certain municipalities do.
Yeah.
But, as a small company, it's very difficult to try and keep on track of all those municipalities that do. We just don't have the manpower to do that. So, we don't actively heavily market in a state like Colorado or California.
Yeah.
We of course get business from California. We of course love working with California, but at the end of the day, it's not some state that we really dedicate a lot of resources to simply because the regulation isn't there. Now, however you look at Washington, Colorado, Arizona, Oregon, those places, we are spending an enormous amount of time working in those places. Even Michigan, which is only 2 hours from where I live, again, a very, very small portion of my business simply because there's no regulation. City to city, everything is different, and we just can't keep up with that.
So when you say regulations, I'm hearing mostly packaging, labeling, and product liability with the infused products is essentially what I'm hearing. Is that about right? That's where most of your focus is right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously security is a big issue, of course. That's a given for us. And then I think the programs that Denver's, that Colorado or Denver's doing with the responsible vendor program, I think those things are fantastic. I think those things should
get into that from your perspective. I'm interested to hear what your point of view is there.
We've been to a lot of different businesses, and for the most part, every business we work with in Colorado is they're top notch. They're doing the right things. They're trying to do the right thing all the time. But they're massively different. I mean, some of them have 300 people that work at a cultivation facility, and then others have 3. So it's really difficult to kind of have that standardization out there. And so with them coming in and providing this kind of overall training, and yes, it's general. And as we talk about with risk management, we're giving you ideas. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm making recommendations. Right. You can do what you want with the recommendations, but they're usually tried and tested, and you can take a portion of them or whatever it is and instill that in your business so that there's a consistency of what you're bringing in. You don't have to hire a bunch of people. You might be able to not hire 5 extra people because you can do the same job with 2 that are properly trained.
Right.
And our losses will go down when we have a properly trained workforce. And so we've been blessed that we don't have a lot of losses. I think our largest individual loss is less than $50,000 on a theft case. Knock on wood.
Sure.
I'm sure we're going to get bigger ones. I'm sure those things are going to come through. But I think it's a product of our customers being aggressive in what they do, and our staff of asking the proper questions of our clients, working with our clients, because we don't work just direct. We don't just work directly with customers. So we work with independent agents all across the country. We have about probably 150 to 200 agents that we work with that are appointed with Cannasure, if you will, that send us the vast majority of business. When I started, everything was just me. I was the chief cook and bottle washer. That ended about 2012, for the most part, 2013 really. And then, so now we have all of the agents that we work with that it probably bring in over 80% of our business on an annual basis.
Great. Yeah. And you mentioned kind of HR issues, and you mentioned theft. Aside from theft, what kind of HR issues are you dealing with now, knowing that you've got this vast network of agents, right?
Yeah, I mean, for us, HR issues are not. It's not a problem. So these are all independent guys. They're independent contractors of us. So for us, it's not a problem. But for the customers,
right.
We look at like employee dishonesty is one that is obviously a big one. Just general housekeeping issues. People get really comfortable in their job, and they like their job. They get comfortable. They don't maybe pick up after themselves as much and do certain things that they first started. And so kind of making sure that every day we're working on those things and bringing a positive environment into the office or the workplace. Morale for people is key, obviously, in any good working environment. And, it's this young, sexy industry that we work in. So we have a lot of young people that work in the industry, which is fantastic. But at the same time, we got to make sure that we have the right culture in what we're trying to do and instill that culture in the people. So, HR issues for us, we just kind of provide our clients with any information that they may have. We're not a life and health insurance firm. That's something we don't get into. I like to stay in my lane, which is property and casualty.
Got it. So as it relates to those two things, you you go down that path as opposed to branching out. Why not branch out though? If your name is Cannasure, and you could, why
True.
not?
Because life and health insurance is very different.
Okay.
And I've never been in life and health insurance. As I said, my father's one of 6 boys, and 3 of my uncles are in health insurance.
Uh-huh.
And none of them like it. One's retired, the other 2 hate it.
Uh-huh.
And so it just, to me, it's something I really don't know much about. And it seems that it's much more of a regional thing that people are doing and dealing with, so they're more comfortable dealing with their regular broker, their local broker on the health insurance issue, because you have your health insurance companies are so regionalized.
Yeah.
Being in Ohio, I don't know exactly what the best carrier is in Colorado or Arizona or whatever those ones are. However, all the brokers there do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just, for us, it just makes 0 sense to go after that. Now, life insurance things are a different story, because now you're getting into key man life policies for key executives and things like that. Those are something that, yes, we would definitely take a look at down in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think something like a health insurance is something we'd ever really get involved with.
Okay. All right. So we've got maybe a glimmer of hope on life insurance.
Sure.
Because you know everybody, right?
Well, we like to think we do, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing is people will tell you, I'm not here to sell anyone anything. I mean, at the end of the day, we're providing a service, and if you want our service and you want to work with us, then you know my number, you know how to call me. I don't need to badger people. I've never cold call anybody in my entire life. And we figure that our work and our product will speak for itself, and most people will find us when they want to find us.
Excellent. And so what is next? I mean, how do you see 2016, knowing everything that you know here? You're one of the early guys in the industry. How do you think we're doing, and where do you think we're going?
I think the last couple of years have been great. I mean, it's obviously our business has grown 700 or 600% last year.
Last year alone.
Last year alone, yeah. This year we are on pace to double that. So it's a good thing. I mean, the businesses are getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
The people that I'm meeting now are definitely all coming from different industries. It's definitely key. There's definitely a lot of networking and conversation happening. In the early days, I think what I learned going to California a lot was that there was not a lot of conversation or cooperation amongst the business owners in California in 10, 11, and I'm sure 12 for the most part, even probably could stretch into 13. But when I was there didn't seem to be a lot of cooperation amongst the vast majority of business owners. But when I went to Colorado and I started to meet all those guys, totally different story.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was meeting all the time. They were having conversations. And I think that the industry is kind of definitely more that way. Of course, competition is good. Everyone competes, and it should be that way. But I definitely feel that we've kind of turned that corner, and we're not what California was a while ago. We're more like what Colorado was, and probably is, in terms of networking and getting the messaging out and working together and making sure, I remember thinking there was a couple business owners I met from California that were, there was a lot of raids going on early on, of course.
Sure, and still.
And they were, I wouldn't say cheering is not the right word, but they were giggling that so-and-so was getting raided. And my thought was, look, I'm sure, I don't know what that person's doing. I don't know what that is. But all I know is you might be the next one.
Yeah.
So you might want to start talking together.
Yeah.
So you're not the next one that's coming around. And that's where I was like, how can you think that this is like, funny, but like, oh, well, he got raided. And so,
how can you revel in that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what? You are absolutely going to be, if you guys don't get it together, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing it correctly or not, they're coming for you here. Mm-hmm. And so that was always very interesting to me. And I definitely think we are way beyond that from what I've seen now. Like even being in this New York show, was interested to see what it was going to be like, and the quality of individual that's here, the questions that have been asked. I mean, the speech we gave yesterday was, that was a full room, and I'm in insurance. Who the hell wants to come listen to somebody talk about insurance? Everybody. Yeah, I guess. So the room was full, which is great. And we had great questions afterwards. And, it's good to be a part of that. In the beginning, it was usually me sitting up there and talking, trying to offer some information without giving away the farm. Yeah. And not really getting any questions that were worthwhile. The only question, how much is it going to cost? Yeah, I was in the room at the Denver NCIA 2014 panel that you spoke on. Yeah. Certainly not a full room. Mm-mm. This had nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. And then when it came to questions, there just weren't questions. No. No. And now there are, because people have experience with what's happened there. They have issues they're dealing with. And so now they had to buy insurance. So now we are learning about our insurance policy. Yesterday I said, when we started, we would get the business owner would give the lowest level employee the insurance application to send to us. I said, that's the worst possible thing you can do.
Right.
This person can barely spell insurance, and you're asking them to go and tell your story. And so now we're seeing, you're seeing the CFO or you're seeing the consultant or whoever else actually go ahead, or the business owner, fill that application out, be involved at least in the initial conversation and buying decision, as opposed to they're 3 months after the fact. Oh, we got insurance. Oh, great. What is it? They know a little bit beforehand, which has been a huge boon.
And hence why folks are paying 6 figures, like you said.
Yeah, well, business facilities in certain states are just getting massive. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just massive. The property values, the projected sales, and then we're looking at Colorado, and we're seeing some of their businesses in Colorado are 9 digits in sales. So it's just amazing to see some of these things come out of nowhere.
Well, and Shane Terry was sitting here yesterday from Nuveda saying that his small facility is 61,000 square feet.
Right. Yeah. No. The size of the facilities, it never shocks me anymore. And, I go into places, and we have some customers in Arizona and Colorado where you walk into their place and you're just like, this is unbelievable. I mean, this thing is so massive, and how much money do you have invested in this place? I mean, it's just unbelievable to see how big they are, and how sophisticated they've become. Going into some of our customers with their R&D, they have a whole entire section, 8,000, 10,000 square feet dedicated to R&D of lighting setups, of different, all the different growing mediums. It's amazing to see that. That was not happening, obviously, a couple years ago or ever, and now these guys are putting a very significant portion of money into that. And it's you've seen the lights change 4 or 5 times over here, and it's just everything is evolving so quickly.
Sure. Are you you seem to be a guy that doesn't necessarily get overly excited.
Well, I coach lacrosse. I get pretty excited in lacrosse, I'll tell you that. I'm
so
a yeller.
We need to watch you on the field, is what it is? That's where it comes out?
Yeah, I'm a yeller on the field. My kids let me know.
How old are the kids?
I have a soon-to-be 10-year-old. I have a 8-year-old and a soon-to-be 4-year-old.
Okay, so that's outnumbers you. You realize that,
yeah,
right?
So yeah, girl, boy, girl. Yeah, sure it is. Sure am.
So good luck with that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Like I said, we don't have a ton of time, so I want to kind of do final questions here. We got your take on where it was. We got your take on where it is and where it's going. Yeah. And you do seem, my general point there was that you do seem excited about where the industry is and where it's going.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been many bad days. I tell my partners I've been punched in the gut enough, and just like everybody else has been in the industry. And the last couple of years, last year and a half or so, have been really, really good. And I can just see on the horizon the businesses are coming. We're seeing our business owners, that their businesses are just going through the roof. I don't foresee really any stoppage of that. I mean, I know everyone's worried about the politics and everything like that. I'm pretty positive Chris Christie's not getting elected.
That's the only guy.
Yeah, that's the only guy. Yeah. Even John Kasich, who I'm from Ohio, even John Kasich from Ohio, we have our issue 3 that's going on right now in Ohio, and even he is
get into that for a minute because we haven't heard about that.
So issue 3 is called Responsible Ohio. They've created a marijuana monopoly in terms of cultivation with 10 growing facilities. They're trying to be medical and recreational all on one ballot, and Ohio would be the only state to do that.
Sure.
Ohio's not, in my opinion, Ohio's not the test case for that type of a ballot initiative.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, and
there's no history of cannabis in the state, so why would you go at it with nothing?
Greed, in my opinion.
Okay. And so where is Kasich on this matter?
Well, they would say if the states vote for it, the populations vote for it, we're going to let it go.
Okay.
Which is good. So, right now this Responsible Ohio is spending money, and I'm for marijuana legalization in our country, in every state. I'm just not sure that Responsible Ohio is the greatest initiative for it. But anything that's going to get us passed and get us forward will be wonderful. They don't have a very good distribution plan set up.
Okay.
They've done some very stupid things in terms of marketing. They have a Buddy. They have a mascot called Buddy.
Oh.
Yeah, they dress him up and they drive him around. When I saw it on the newspaper one day, I sent it to my business partners. I said, please tell me this is the opposition that's punking Responsible Ohio sending this thing out.
Right.
And they're like, no, that's the real deal. They're sending this guy dressed up as a marijuana thing. I'm like, what are you doing?
Uh-huh. So where's public support on that?
It's all over the board. They just recently they've gotten the ACLU, they got Normal, and they got somebody else to come out and support. What they actually supported, they said, we don't support the ballot, we support the legalization of marijuana.
Right. So they support what you support.
Exactly.
They support what we all support.
They support what we all support,
Yeah.
but they're like, well, if we don't support this, then now we're against it, and blah, blah, blah. So, it is what it is and what's going to happen. I mean, I know several of the people that are investors in Responsible Ohio.
Sure.
I'm hopeful that things will work out right. I'm also fearful that the vast majority of investors in Responsible Ohio don't know a damn thing about cannabis, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
And they're just going to go around and sell their licenses to the highest bidder,
Sure.
which is not a problem per se.
Yeah.
But I know we're going to be in court for the next year and a half. And that's the real problem.
If it passes.
If it passes. Well, there's issue 2 that Ohio came up with.
Uh-huh.
The state Senate came up with is the anti-monopoly issue. So it's in direct competition with issue 3.
Sure.
So you have to have, according to what I was told by our attorneys, that if both ballot initiatives pass, which is a very possible thing,
Right.
the one that got the most votes is the one that actually goes into effect, and the other one gets kicked out. And that is by a 1911 Ohio Supreme Court ruling that happened. So there's no doubt about it. There's going to be a legal fight. It's going to the Ohio Supreme Court no matter what happens.
Wow.
So that's the problem, is we've made progress.
Yeah.
But now we're not going to really have any progress, in my opinion. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
2018.
For Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and so you got a ballot initiative that passed in 15, and you might have businesses that open in 18. Is what I kind of see.
That's what you see on the ground.
I could be completely wrong.
Sure.
But that's the only way I kind of see that playing out. I mean, they're going to court over it. There's no doubt about it. Whether win or lose, it's going to court.
Yeah.
So how long is that going to be?
Well, let's see what happens. But yeah, that we came to this issue through Kasich, and your greater point was we said that Chris Christie, is the only guy that's going to come out as like, I'm going to actually retract the state laws,
Right.
which would not be a Republican, whatever.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what was your point about Kasich, I guess?
Well, we're just talking about politics.
Yeah.
And I think that no matter even we all know that cultural politics is going to change around here. We're getting a new president soon. So
Sure.
That would really be the only big thing that I could foresee really kind of stomping out the industry. And,
Sure.
I think, as we all know inside the industry, that's a mountain that I think no politician wants to climb.
No.
The tax dollars, people that are employed. I mean, good luck with filling those jobs back up.
Yeah, no, jobs and money. You're eliminating jobs and money.
Yeah.
What?
As they say all the time, the genie's out of the bottle and no one's putting it back in.
Indeed.
So you may be able to rein it in a little bit and control it a little bit differently, but it's not going away.
Right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And so then we'll kind of end here and ask you the 3 final questions that we ask everybody, which are, what has most surprised you in cannabis? What has most surprised you in life, Patrick? And then the final question is, on your soundtrack of life, name a track, name a song. And that's either the easiest or the hardest, depending on who you are. But first things first, what has most surprised you in cannabis?
I think the quality of individual that is now a part of the industry.
Yeah.
It's changed very rapidly, and I think we've got a very good group of people at all over the country that are working very hard to make their business and the industry overall successful. And I think it's going to be very difficult for any outside force to come and take that away, which is what we need.
And that's what we were just talking about.
It's like we need a team.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is a team. Whether we all think we're on a team or not,
Yeah.
we are on one team. It's Team Cannabis here for a while.
That's it.
And we're all pulling in the same direction for the most part. And some of us may go straight a little bit this way and go a little bit that way. But at the end of the day, we're all pulling for the same thing.
There we go. And so, what has most surprised you in life?
The wonder that are children. Having kids, I love kids, and I'm not a baby person. So from 0 to 6 months, I'm probably not a very good dad.
You're out on that.
Yeah, I'm over here. It's a baby. It looks like a baby. It looks good.
Yeah.
But
Let's get that thing up on its feet type of thing.
Yeah, just crawl around, have a little personality. Having daughters, I'm very nervous to have daughters. I know what I was like as a young man.
Yes.
I coach, and I coach a all boys high school team. So there's 1,450 high school boys that I'm around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very nervous about that. That's the one thing, but I'm just trying to get my daughters, hopefully, to take some of my personality, and I think that will help them overall deal with the life's issues they're going to have to come up against.
How do you mean? If you could put that into one or a few words, what do you mean by some of your personality?
I don't know. It's just I don't want to say I get affected, but it's very difficult for someone to bother me, if you would. It takes a long time. And if I don't really know much about everything, I don't really care. I don't let things bother me. You know what I mean? If it's not happening to me and it's not my issue, I'm not going to let it get all involved with it and think about it. And if somebody's talking about me, I really don't care. There's nothing I can do about it. You know,
Right.
I can only do what I can do. And I'm comfortable with what I say. I'm comfortable with who I am. And, you know, I just how it is, you know, and I want my daughters to be that way. I don't want them to be worried about what this person's saying and what everybody else is saying, because I think that's a miserable way to go through life.
Yeah.
You'll never, ever be happy.
Yeah.
You'll always be trying to make somebody else happy. And it's not about just making yourself happy, but it's about, you know, just being the right person and being true and honest to yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. And that's what I want my daughters to do, because, you know, whatever choices they make, they're going to have to live with them. And I want them to understand the choices you're making are going to affect what people think and how people perceive you. But you got to be comfortable with that perception. If you're comfortable with that perception,
go for it.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. No, that's a good lesson for any kid, really. Yeah. That's fantastic. And based on those comments, I would imagine you're a big Twitter guy, right?
I do a little bit.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I
don't follow. I follow Twitter. I don't post anything.
That's it.
I follow.
Okay.
Maybe favorite a few things here and there, but I'm not posting anything. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So that soundtrack of life, the Patrick McManamon,
Song.
Yeah.
I'm not a big music person, unfortunately. I was lucky. I grew up with my brother and sister. I'm the youngest, so my brother and sister are in their 40s. So I was always around Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers, all those good things. So at least I have a good taste in music, unlike my kids, unfortunately, who listen to all this crap that's out there right now that I can't even understand. I would say, I would soundtrack of life. I think Allman Brothers' Blue Sky is probably my favorite song. So I would think that would be what I kind of always think about when I'm around that. So I just think it's a great song for great mood and way to live your life.
You absolutely nailed it for a guy that doesn't listen to much music.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, throw that on.
Yep.
Patrick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So there you have it, Patrick McManamon. And it's kind of interesting how many folks were raised with these Jesuit principles and how much overlap there is in all of these different types of people. The cannabis industry is really made up of no one is the same, but then again, there are these concentric circles that certainly